Welcome back to Families in Action on your local hometown station, AM 1220.
It's easy for you to say.
Yes. Yeah, I got
Apparently not.
I got tongue twisted there, didn't I? It's just one of those days, Michael. But hey, Michael, we're back. We got Larry. Why don't you tell us where we're going and introduce Larry? Because we just kind of ran with it, and I take advantage of when Larry's here. I take advantage of him because he's got such good knowledge. You know?
Oh, yeah. Well, after you hear this, what all of his credentials are, you'll understand. We're going to be talking about the holiday blues and depression today. And Larry is a licensed clinical social worker, so he's going to be able to tell us all about where that comes from and how we can deal with it. But listen to this. He is also the Assistant Director of Student Health and Wellness Mental Health Program at College of the Canyons. He graduated from the University of Southern California with a master's in social work. He holds a Pupil Personnel Services credential and is a diplomat in clinical social work. He has over 30 years experience working with the community mental health, public schools, and education. He serves youth, families, and adults. He chairs the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Task Force, which you and I, Cary, are part of, although Cary never shows up.
I think I'm going to start showing him.
We've never shamed him into this.
I really do.
Okay, and he's involved, he's involved in transition-aged youth issues and the SCV Committee on Suicide Prevention and Post-Prevention, which I'm also involved with, and wellness, among other collaborations. I mean, it just keeps going, and we don't have...
I was saying, Michael, you better slow down.
Yeah.
The show's going to end before you're done with his credentials.
Yeah.
You're so nice. Although I recently stepped down as chair of the Blue Ribbon Task Force, and Janine Prado is now the chair. So
I noticed that.
I did that a couple of years and had a great time. We accomplished a lot, and I still go to that meeting and participate. But just to be absolutely accurate, I'm no longer the chair.
But you've been on the committee since...
Scored a little bit of time.
But you've been on the committee since the Earth cooled.
Since it started.
There you go.
The Earth cooled.
So I turned on the TV this morning, and I was flipping through my remote, and all these beautiful, romantic, glamorous Christmas shows are on.
Wow.
You know? And that's beautiful and romantic and all that wonderful stuff, but it isn't always like that, is it?
No, it isn't, and that's one of the things we really want to maybe just draw some attention to, that during this holiday season, for a lot of people, it's not necessarily a happy time, or even if it is a happy time, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of things that are going on, and it takes a lot of work to make it happy, if you will. You know, particularly we know families that have had losses during this time or have had losses recently. This can be a very difficult time because they're grieving first Christmas. But even, you know, I know one youth we working with just recently, you know, I asked him, well, that's what's happening with the holidays. And he said, you know, I don't do holidays. I stay home in my room. And I go, well, what's with that? And, you know, I can go into a lot of detail, but, you know, the bottom line is after his father died, you know, about 10 years ago, that was the end of Christmas.
Right.
You know, that was just the end of the Christmas for him. It just wasn't there.
How sad.
And it's very sad. And for others, they've had tragedies during this time. I had one family I worked with whose brother was shot and killed accidentally, playing with guns. And the day before Christmas, and I was at the hospital. It was raining like crazy, and I'm with this family, and it was a tough scene.
Yeah, it must have.
You know, so we just know that for some people, this isn't like happy time, and it's very not only difficult because it's a difficult time for themselves, but when the media, as you say, is blasting, you know, the Hallmark movies, and even a lot of the Hallmark movies will demonstrate that Christmases aren't really nice,
right?
Always good. Sometimes they'll go into that, but it's you know, you're walking around, you're hearing the Christmas music, and everybody's supposedly happy, and it's tough, you know. So it can be rough.
Yeah. And you know, and we're talking grief in a lot of different ways. It could
Right.
be an empty nest.
Right.
Where your kids leave. It could be you lost your job. Your boyfriend had an affair. Your girlfriend this. Your wife left. Your husband left.
Right.
There's so many different things that can affect how you're feeling at the moment, especially on the holidays when you really believe, when society says it's such a happy time.
Right, right. And if you put that together with, hey, I need to get the presents. I need to get, need to get a lot of things done. I get, it sounds simple, but get the lights on the, on the tree, get the lights on the house, get everything looking great. Even if it's great, I got baking to do, and shoot, now I've got like 500 people coming to my house tonight, and I don't even like all of them. So,
and then there's also the whole thing about there actually are people who are almost possessed that they are going to have a perfect Christmas.
Right.
We're
That's
going to do everything we want to do. We're going to have a wonderful time doing it.
Right.
And when we close out this holiday, we are all going to be, we've done it.
Right.
But the expectations, though,
Right. Expectations are really high, and
can really set you up for a major letdown.
right. And there's something to say about making Christmases special and keeping family traditions alive and spiritual traditions alive, and making your family, holidays a good memory for your kids, so that later on they can pass on these things. And I know that kids remember Christmases. So it's a challenge for parents, and it's a challenge for adults. It's a challenge. I mean, you mentioned split families, foster families, and trying to get together,
Right.
Blended families, and dealing with all the stress and dynamics. We call it psychodynamics.
And we have a number of, this is the holiday season, but we have Christmas, we have Hanukkah, and we have Kwanzaa. There are people
Right.
that celebrate that as well.
And New Year's to
and then
throw
New
that
Year's
in, too.
Yeah,
New Year's
absolutely.
too,
So
right.
there's a lot rolling down the
lot
hill
going
here.
on. And earlier you mentioned alcohol and drugs. Alcohol and drugs play a big part in the holidays. I mean, you get together with people that you only see once a year, so maybe we need to do some drinking to sort of loosen things up or whatever. And what often happens is the adults start drinking, and during this time, the kids are less supervised. They're not going to school. They don't have homework as much, at least, and so they might just start drinking too, and you just don't pay as close attention to them and what they're doing with their time,
Right.
and you start feeling a little sluggish. Maybe you get depressed or whatever, and then your kids start kind of, what are they going to do? They're modeling your behavior.
And I always say that too. I said, if you want your kids not to drink and not to drive too fast and not to cuss and scream and want to yank somebody out of the car and all that kind of stuff, be the role model. Be what you want your kid to be.
Yeah.
And I really believe I was driving down the street and I was following my daughter the other day, and she was waving at me, look, and there's a car in front of us that's all over the place.
Oh, wow.
Clearly drunk. So it's also a time that you got to, one bad decision can change your whole world. Going to your friend's house, having one too many drinks. Going to the restaurant and having one shot too many. I mean, worlds change. Lives change.
It's really important to remember that, because a lot of people, it's really hard to not go to a party with friends and family and coworkers and whatever and have one drink too many. And one drink too many isn't too many. What are you going to, how many is one drink too many? But now you're driving. And now you're one of those statistics that somebody's been killed, perhaps yourself, around the Christmas holidays. And now, so we really want people to be mindful of the dangers of drinking alcohol and drugs at this time of year.
Or maybe you don't kill somebody. Maybe you're just a little too tipsy, and you're just weaving just a little too much for that highway patrolman to take you to jail.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
can ruin everything.
Can ruin everything. So we really want you to be mindful these holiday season that driving and alcohol don't mix. Even one drink changes the way you think and feel and act, and your reaction time.
And don't let somebody talk you into it. If you're at a party and you're holding a soft drink of some kind, and they come up and say, "Hey, what are you drinking?"
Mm-hmm.
"Well, I'm drinking tea." "Oh, come on, you got to get with it." You don't. No. Hey.
And if you have to drink, fine. We're not telling you don't do what you're an adult, do what you want to do, but make sure you have a ride.
Yeah.
Make sure there's a taxi or a designated driver or something. Don't put everyone at jeopardy because of what you're doing. And by the way, when we're going out to a party and we're going out to a restaurant and we're going to drink, we know we're going to drink. You know what you're going to do, so plan it first.
Right. And be mindful. I mean, I think it's important. Drinking in our culture is not, a negative thing, especially this time of
Right.
year. Like you say, we're not telling people don't drink, don't feel guilty for drinking, for that matter. But be mindful of when you're drinking, what kinds of feelings you're having. I mean, if you're stressed or you're anxious or you're depressed, pay attention to that. Pay attention to how you're feeling when you're drinking. You don't look so good dancing when you're drinking, even though you think you look
Yeah, you
great
think you
dancing. And be mindful of what's going on around you. What are other people doing? Especially your kids. Your family. People that you care about. Be mindful that when you're drinking, you have less clarity about what's going on with other people in the room and other people in your family and other people in the house, for that matter.
And less knowledge of what's coming out of your mouth.
Well, right. You say stuff that, people remember next year. Oh, well, Uncle Joe, you remember what he said?
You can't take it back.
Nope.
Things come out that you can't take back, and I've been definitely known to do that, even though I don't drink. So I even got to think about what I say sometimes because
Yeah.
Well, on top of everything else with the holidays at this time of the year, we're also dealing with something else that's very real, and that's a seasonal disorder because of the lack of sunlight, and it actually causes people to get depressed. Now, you and I were talking about this before we came into the studio, and I was born in California, but I was raised in Alaska, and of course we have much less sunshine in the wintertime, and we go through every year what they refer to locally as cabin fever, which is really a depression.
Right.
And we have that here in California because we don't have as much sunlight right now.
It's very real. It's a very real disorder. It's called seasonal affective disorder, SAD for short. And people do experience this, and there's ways of managing it, including being out in the sunlight or artificial light. So sure, if you're up in the northern latitudes like Alaska and you're not very active, you're not getting outside, you're not moving around, you can get very depressed, and you think it's you start feeling worthless, you start feeling hopeless, you start feeling like your life has any value. You don't realize that that's kind of a depression. It's not really total rational thinking. A lot of people from Alaska, they head to Hawaii.
They do.
This time of year, they just blow out because they know they need that vitamin D, so to speak. And
but it's
my
really,
family lives in Alaska, a lot of them, and they'll come down.
Really?
They'll all come down here at least once.
So your house is full, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's true what you said, Michael. I mean, now that it gets darker earlier, people get more depressed.
Right.
They do. Because we're always, we're California. This is the beach. We see the sun all the time. All of a sudden in the wintertime, we get out of work and we say, ooh, it's dark. It just
and
doesn't feel
the rain too. I mean, when it starts getting gloomy and rainy, people get that feeling of gloomy and rainy. Right.
So some of the signs of the kinds of depression that we're talking about are headaches, excessive drinking, which we've talked about, overeating. That's easy to do around the holidays, and insomnia.
Sleep problems.
And I can understand how people can get insomnia. I mean, they have so many things going through the mind. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, and I can't forget to do this. I have to tell you, our
or they sleep too much.
There you go. Our pastor brought up something very interesting on Sunday. He said, my wife and I went to get a Christmas tree, and we always get a live Christmas tree. He said, we visited about 8 different lots.
Oh, my.
And he said, it wasn't my wife's fault, it was my fault, because he said, if I got to pay $8,000 for a tree, I want it to be perfect. So every lot he went to, he could not find the perfect tree, and finally he did. So here's somebody that's
Or he gave up, surrendered.
You know, it is funny because we used to do that. We had to have the perfect tree, and boy, this year was like, hey, that's it, let's go.
There you go.
my
But we
wife.
didn't have the kids, so it's a little different.
My wife.
I never took down the fake tree that was in my living room. So I was like, I plugged it in the other day. The lights were on. I was saying, now I know why I didn't.
I have to tell you, my wife and I's second Christmas together, our second year of marriage, we went out, and we were in Alaska still, and it was bitter cold on the afternoon we decided to go find a Christmas tree. The wind was blowing. It was awful. The first lot we went to, we're looking around, and we just, both of us pointed at a tree, and we said, we don't care if it has branches or not. We're through with this. We're done. We grabbed it. We decorated. We laughed a lot. We talked about it. In fact, we were just talking about it yesterday. Our second tree was as a result of just being bitter cold, and we gave up and said, forget it, just get a tree.
Mm-hmm. But
it's a good lesson because, you know, if everybody's watched the Peanuts special where, you know, Charlie Brown picks out, you know, just a little scrawny tree. And it's really the spirit of the season. It's really, you know, what you put on the tree and how you manage, you know, that time and the whole holiday season. It's not the perfect tree. And if you get stuck on the thoughts that I have to have a perfect tree, you know, you're dealing with the stress and anxiety. And if you find yourself all stressed and anxious when you're picking out a tree, you know, just be mindful. Like, okay, it's not really the tree. It's I'm stressed and I'm anxious and I need perfection, and perfection does not bring happiness. And you have to sort of like walk yourself through that. And if you can't, then talk to you know, a friend or a family member.
And if perfection does bring happiness, it's only for a short period of time. It's like a drug. And then bang, we're back down, and now what do we have to find to fix ourselves again? And what you said is really great because it doesn't have to be the tree. It could be the present. It could be the dinner. It could be the company.
Very good point. Right.
How do we deal with that? How do people out there, how do our listeners who are saying, okay, I'm pretty caught up in it, how do I kind of free myself here?
It's such a good question, and you know, I can throw out a bunch of stuff, you know, but I think Cary said it best right off the bat. You know, plan ahead. You know, it's not just plan ahead for drinking that night, but kind of if you can plan ahead and be prepared. And I keep stressing the whole concept of being mindful. But I mean, some of it's like creating time. You know, we talk about spend time with your kids and your chosen family, not necessarily the family members that you feel you have to feel time. You know who your best friends are. You know who your good friends are. You know who you want to really spend a little time with that makes you feel good.
And also know that you don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It's perfect if you're happy and you're less stressed and you're enjoying, you know, a cup of we call it a cup of Christmas tea by the fireplace. And if you don't have a fireplace, you know, by your tree, or if you're not that, you know, by your menorah or whatever you know, just spend a little time down and sort of taking in, you know, the season and the time of year and the family and that sort of thing. Pay attention to what's really important.
And realistic expectations. Don't set them too high. And hey, if it doesn't come out exactly the way you wanted it to, then it doesn't. People will, your life will go on, and you'll be okay. Is it time to take a break? I think it is, isn't it? So let's go ahead and do that. This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Welcome back to Families in Action right here on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station. And our special guest today is Larry Shallert, and we're talking about holiday depression. Cary, how are you doing with the shopping?
I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment. I'm going to plead that.
But you don't look depressed over it.
No, you know what?
I'm
I'm not, because I kind of got to, I haven't done much shopping yet, but I kind of know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do it. It's just getting there, and
And our therapist is sitting here with us.
I know. I might need therapy.
Shallert.
I might need therapy after that question.
He hasn't finished his either.
Oh, I haven't finished mine, but it's not a big, long list. And my wife, I got to give her a lot of credit. She's good with the shopping piece.
My wife is so organized. She has it all done, and I finished mine up over the weekend.
Very cool.
So But we didn't have a lot to do. We don't do a lot. We don't get into the thingy part.
All right.
And there's plenty of time still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, if she says one day that she wants a $500 watch, then I'll look real close at her to make sure that it's the same lady that I married, and then I won't buy it.
Did you hear that, Mary?
I'm sure she did.
You might want to ask for that watch.
Nah, she doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's a good point, Mike, because it's not about spending a whole lot of money and doing all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we look at stuff too much. It's about the feelings.
It really is, and before we say anything else, it's good to just mention that if you need support, there is support out there. There's a suicide hotline. There's lots of counselors. There's clergy. There's people to talk to. So we really want you to remember that things get really bad, and they do. We know. We're in the business. We know it can get really bad this time of year.
Right.
And don't feel bad about calling somebody and asking for help.
It's time for Mythbuster here, because you brought up an interesting point. Most people think that the holidays are the biggest time for suicides, and they are not. Actually, suicides decrease during the holidays.
Right. And so does treatment in general.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. So, but it doesn't mean it's not tough for people.
No, not at all. But they're not getting drastic about it.
When it comes to programs and suicide and psych hospitals and treatment, it explodes in the later part of January because of all those expectations that people put on the holidays. When they're over, it's done, and they're feeling let down. Or all those people that had to have perfection and something fixed them, it's over.
Is there such a thing as the post-holiday blues, Larry?
Probably are. We should study that a little more.
That's interesting.
There definitely are, because that's when more people go into treatment. That's when more suicide attempts. That's when more suicides. That's when more
they feel maybe disconnected.
Exactly.
The behavioral health unit certainly fills up shortly after.
All treatment does.
January.
I've been in the treatment field for over 30 years. All treatment centers. I mean, usually right about now everything gets slow. The next week it gets really slow, and then January, explosion. So
So we want people to make the most of their holidays if they possibly can, and sometimes it means doing some volunteer activities, some help the homeless, do some, a soup kitchen sort of stuff. I know most churches and temples have something going on where you can, and it makes you feel good about yourself. It makes you feel good about others. We want you to network with other parents. There's do things that make holidays special to you. I don't know if this theory really holds out, but I tell people, take responsibility for your mood. People say, hey, I'm not in the mood for Christmas. Well, sometimes you have to sort of jack yourself into the mood for Christmas. You have to start listening to Christmas music. Exactly. Go and walk around a Christmas tree. Go to the mall. Or something that gets you in the mood. Because
don't allow insecurities, fear, or any of that to push you around either.
Yeah.
Don't have a relationship with that. Kick it out of your head and do what Larry says. Force yourself to do something different.
Yeah, and do something to make the holidays special to you. If it's ice skating with the kids, if it's going up to the mountains in the snow, just do something that really makes something special. Don't let the holiday just kind of pass you by. If you possibly can. I mean, this is just I tell this to everybody, not just people in therapy. You do have to take some responsibility to make things happen for you and your family. Watch It's a Wonderful Life. Watch The Peanut Special.
Love that movie.
These things can alter your mood, and sometimes the Hallmark things make you feel like, oh, my life's not like that. But stuff like It's a Wonderful Life and The Peanut Special and something like that really do affect the way you see things. You see things a little bit more spiritually. You see things that are really important, like family and friends. And the holiday spirit, so to speak, as opposed to, hey, I got to get those lights up, I got to get the presents, I got to have the perfect house, everything's got to look perfect.
Wait a minute, am I supposed to have lights on my tree?
Well,
So it's time to wrap it up. But yeah, a lot of times moods are choices. So we have to
Yeah.
really make a choice to get out of whatever state of mind we're in and put ourselves in a different mode. Hey, Mike, Larry's great, isn't he? Isn't it great to have him
Oh, it's
on?
always great to have Larry here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's an honor being here. I appreciate you asking me on.
Great. And by the way, you can get this on a podcast in about a couple hours. And if you have cable TV, I know Time Warner, we're on every Mondays at 4 p.m.
That's right. Then you can see what Larry
Channel
looks
20,
like.
and you could see what Larry looks like. And we were trying to hide Mike because he's got a face for radio, but it didn't work. No, really, happy holidays. Be safe. Be careful. And,
I'm depressed.
And
I got to talk to Larry after the show.
exactly. We have help for you, Mike.
Good.
Hey, this is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Have a great week.